Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Old Vlog. And my initial plan for this video was to try and do a bit of a kind of joint review of the trailers that have come out this week for Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home. But at the moment, there is no trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, but I wanted to get on and get the Captain Marvel review done. So we're going to deal with Spider-Man in a later video. Hopefully it's going to be released this weekend. At the time of recording, it's Saturday morning, and I don't think the trailer's going to come out now until probably tonight. So we'll wait and see what happens with that, and then hopefully that'll be my next video. So as far as this one's concerned, Captain Marvel, to be honest, I don't have a vast amount to say about the Captain Marvel trailer, and I think that's probably because it doesn't really add anything to what we've seen before with the teaser trailer and with the photos that were released before it. There's a few things to note, but mostly I think the problem with this film, and I hope it won't necessarily be the case when it comes out for release at the cinema, but a lot of the hype and a lot of the expectation and the build-up and the excitement for the MCU and Marvel movies is, of course, all leading now to Endgame, Avengers 4. So it's not, unfortunately, well, in my opinion, great timing to bring out Captain Marvel in March and then have it almost compete with another Marvel movie 4 weeks later, in Avengers Endgame, which is probably one of the most anticipated Marvel movies, well, certainly since Infinity War, but if not of all time. I've certainly never seen so many people so eagerly await the trailer to be released for that film or any film before it. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange move. I don't know why Captain Marvel isn't coming out more sort of like January time, just to give it that same sort of gap as what Black Panther had before Infinity War came out. But that's as it is, and that's what they've done. So I assume they know what they're doing. I'm sure they do. So yeah, just a few things to note that have come out from the Captain Marvel trailer. It opens with Fury speaking, as he often does in these trailers. He kind of gives the narrative for it, just explaining that Skrulls are the bad guys and that Captain Marvel is a Kree. Skrulls, as I've spoken about before in a previous video, they're shape-shifting aliens. They are the bad guys, but they can make themselves look like any other person, being, character in the universe. So I tell you, if Marvel Studios don't do a Secret Invasion story arc off of the back of this, I think they're wasting a huge opportunity, because that is a massive, massive story arc. Of all of the storylines that they've done and the phases that they've done, obviously, Infinity War is probably the biggest. It's the one that connects the entire 10 years of the MCU so far. But individual films like Civil War, that is a massive comic book storyline that they've done there. Absolutely huge. And it still has sort of ripple effects in other films even now. These few years later, it still has an effect, and it is still kind of being digested, and it's having an impact on where the characters are and what they're doing and who's talking to who or not, as the case may be. So, you know, I know they're not afraid to do the big storylines, but I really want Secret Invasion to be one of them. The flip side to that is that it's probably going to be really overly complicated, in that certain characters, as we've seen them throughout the whole of the MCU so far, may not actually turn out to be the genuine characters. They could turn out to be an alien pretending to be that character. But I think that's a really interesting dynamic, and I think it certainly could change the way that things go forward. So it certainly looks as though that they are going to introduce this concept in Captain Marvel. We are going to have the Skrulls in there as the bad guys. We just don't know how much of an effect it's going to have on things going forward. And whether or not we see any of that in Endgame, or whether it's something that will happen afterwards, I don't know. But it's a massive storyline, and I really, really hope that Phase 4 is going to go in that direction, because I think it'd be really, really interesting and fun. Good to see. So we'll wait and see. When they open up this trailer, we see, after Captain Marvel's finished fighting with an old woman, there's a conversation between her and Fury where she's explaining that she's a Kree warrior. Those who watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be familiar already with the Kree and what they do, and it's through their somewhat more superior genetic makeup that Coulson is still alive and didn't get killed in the first Avengers movie. Make of that what you will, but at the end of the day, they are superior to humans in terms of strength and speed and abilities, and obviously they make great warriors, if you like. So that's kind of her background, but she seems to have more abilities than what I've ever noticed of a Kree before. So obviously she can fly, she can do all sorts of things, she can shoot lasers out of her hands. as far as the comics are concerned, she's a very powerful character, and she certainly is being described so far as being potentially the most powerful superhero that we've had so far in Marvel movies, which is really exciting. It's going to be great to see that, and it certainly will put, I suppose, our more earthbound heroes in a back seat as they expand the Marvel universe or multiverse with these now more powerful characters that they have coming up. It's interesting to see in the trailer, trying to understand the timeline of the film and how things will be sequenced, and we assume that Carol Danvers, the secret identity, if you like, behind Captain Marvel is earthbound to start with. She's a fighter pilot, and somehow from that she ends up being taken or rescued, I think, by the Kree, and I guess perhaps in an attempt to save her life, she's given Kree blood transfusions and various other weird operations and things that kind of turn her into this warrior, and she presumably will join Star Force, which is kind of like a Kree fighting unit, which is led, originally we were led to believe, by Jude Law's character, Captain Marvel, however you pronounce it. But there's been a recent reveal through some of the products that are coming out for that film, and in particular I'm talking about the Funko Pop figures. It does show that actually Jude Law isn't playing a character known as that. He's actually playing a character, and I've written it down because I couldn't remember it, called Yon-Rogg. And Yon-Rogg is actually an ally of Ronan the Accuser going forward, who, if you recall, was the big bad guy from the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. And they have a very kind of severe, radical view of Kree superiority. So it does tend to suggest that actually Jude Law's character is going to become probably more of a villain, more of a bad guy, and there is a little hint of that in the trailer that we see where he's talking perhaps not so nicely to Captain Marvel, just very, very briefly, but it is in there, so it does add an element to his character and what's going to happen with that going forward. So it's not as we expected it, I suppose, from what we've seen so far. Obviously Fury's in it, we know that, and it's a de-aged Fury. The way that they do this with Marvel movies to de-age their characters is amazing. It really, really works. It's very, very good. And we see him playing around with the cat, who in the comics is called Chewie, but I think they've changed the name of the cat for the films purely so that people don't get confused with Star Wars Chewie. So we'll wait and see. So there's a bit of a funny moment in the trailer. Towards the end of it as well, Captain Marvel says how there's a war coming, but she's not going to fight your war, she's going to finish your war. And I wonder if that war that they're talking about is Secret Invasion. I don't know, but certainly there is a big fight scene in space that we see very briefly in that trailer, and it looks very cool. So yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. Not a lot else to say about the trailer. It didn't really reveal anything else. I'll put a link down below to the video that I did of the Captain Marvel movie when the first kind of images were released, and sort of go into a bit more depth about what we think we can expect to see in that film. So we'll wait and see. Certainly at the moment there's no connection from what we've seen to Captain Marvel movie and Endgame coming out. There's no crossover of characters or storyline yet, but I do think we will see that once the films are released. We'll get that tie-in, I'm sure of it. So we'll wait and see. Obviously, at the moment, I'm now just sitting around waiting for the Spider-Man trailer to be released, and when that comes out, I'll do another video. So with that being said, hopefully I will see you guys real soon. And don't forget, please, can you superhero my video and like it, share it, comment on it? I'll be really, really grateful. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys soon.